Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Let's take a look on basic SQL in 1 hour plus. Before we do SQL, we need to consider what kind of tables that we have in our database. For example, we have table employees, department, and location over here. You need to understand that inside employees, we have few columns. Okay, we have employee ID as the primary key, name, salary, hire date, manager ID, and department ID. Inside departments table, we have department ID, department name, location ID, and inside location, we have location ID and city. Okay, in a database, tables must be connected to each other. Okay, tables must be connected to each other. For example, we know employees table will be connected to departments table according to department ID. Even though the name over here, if you take a look, the name of department ID, the column name is debt ID. But we know that this debt ID will be referring to department ID inside departments table. Okay, so what does it mean here? Department ID inside employees, tab ID here is the foreign key, and the primary key inside department is department ID. So foreign key must refer to primary key. Okay, same goes inside department, we have location ID, and inside location, we have location ID. So this is what we call as common attribute. Okay, common attribute. This is also a common attribute. Okay, this is also a common attribute, but they have a different column name. Okay, debt ID inside employees will refer to department ID inside department. Okay, even though these common are common attribute, but it doesn't need to have the same name. If they have a different name, as long as we know what they are referring to, then it will be okay. Same goes with this one, with the location ID and location ID. The same name, okay, the same common attributes name. So there's no problem also. Okay, it can be the same name, it cannot be the same name. Same goes this one, we have manager ID referring to employee ID. What does it mean here? Manager also is an employee. So who is the manager for City Farah over here, for example? We know Siti Farah, the employee ID is 102. The name is Siti Farah. Who is the manager? 101. Who is 101? We will refer manager ID, will refer to employee ID. Who is 101 over here? Ahmad Ali. So what does it mean? Manager's name for Siti Farah is Ahmad Ali. Okay, so that's how we read it. Same goes with this one. What if I said, what is the department name for Liana Aina? Department name. Inside table employees, we have what? Department ID 20. So where is this 20 referring to? This 20 will referring to department ID inside department 20 over here. So what is the name? The name is human resource. So we know Liana Aina is working inside human resource department. Same goes, finance department is located at which city? We know inside departments we have location ID 1, where this location ID will be referring to. Location ID inside departments will refer to location ID inside location. So what is the name of the city? 1. Okay, what is the name? The city is Kuala Lumpur. So this is how we read the interconnected data between tables in database. When you understand this one, then you can do the SQL easily. The basic SQL statement would be select column name, column 1. If you have more than one column, comma, column 2, comma, column 3. If you don't have any other column, then do not comma. Then we go to the second clause, which is from. From table name. Okay, then we stop. Semicolon is to end the SQL statement. Okay, so by right, if you take a look, this column 1, 2, and 3 must coming from this table. Okay, for example, here, what if I want to only select name and salary from, okay, name and salary coming from which table? Employees, because inside the column here, name, salary, it must be exact column name. Okay, name and salary from which table? Employees. Okay, then what will be displayed in your table result? Okay, you have this one. We have employee we have the column that we select. The first one is name and the second one is salary. Now all of the employees will be listed in our table result. Only the name and salary, because we want to select only only a few columns. But if you want to display all of the columns inside employees, then we will do select asterisk. Asterisk here means all columns. Okay, all columns. From which table that you want to see? From table employees. Okay, so the result of this SQL select all from employees, we will get this one. Because why? We select all columns and we select all the rows. Okay, we select all the rows because we don't have condition yet. Okay, so when you don't have condition in your SQL, then what will you get? You will get all the rows inside that particular table. Okay, the second one that we can do, okay, maybe I want to select department name. Okay, it must be full column name, yeah. Department name and also location ID. From which table these two columns coming from? Departments. Okay, then if you execute, then you will have only department name and location in your table result. Okay, department ID will not be listed because why? Because we didn't select any of department ID as our column inside the SQL. Okay, so the problem is sometimes what student will always do is they will select, for example, salary, location ID from department. Can this be executed? No. Why? Take a look. Table departments. Inside departments, do you have a location ID? Yes. Do you have a salary? No. This column does not exist inside department table. So this SQL cannot be executed. You will get wrong. Um, you will get the error message lah. Okay, you will get error message. Why? Because salary column is not inside departments table. Okay, so if you want to display data that are coming from multiple tables, we will learn after this. Okay, we will take a look after this. But currently, what we are selecting is only data that are columns that are coming from single table. So this SQL statement cannot be executed because why? Salary is not a valid column from departments table. So when you want to select the columns in our select clause over here, if you want to list all the columns over here, it must come from the valid table over here. Okay, so if the column is not inside this table, then of course you will get an error message when you're trying to execute the SQL. Just now, what we covered is only select clause and also from clause. Okay, for example, select column 1, column 2, column 3 from table name. As I said, if we stop our SQL up until here, then we will get all of the rows in our table. Okay, we get all of the rows of the data. So let's say we have 5 different data. All these 5 rows will be listed in our table result. But what if we only want, okay, we only want certain rows to be listed in our table result, then we need to have a where clause. Okay, after from clause, we need to have a where clause. Okay, where clause is where you put your condition. Okay, where clause is the part where you put your condition. In condition, you must have 3 things: column name or expression. You need to have comparison operator. Okay, comparison operator, and also the value to be compared with. For example, over here, we have column, okay, equals to value. Okay, so that's why, as I said, when we have a condition, we must have these 3 things: the column, the comparison operator, and also the value. This comparison operator can be equal, it can be not equal, it can be less than or equal, greater than or equal. We can have like, we can have between and. Okay, so these are all the operators, comparison operators, that you can use inside here inside your condition. Okay, so remember, when you have a condition, it must have a column name or expression, the comparison operator, and the value to be compared with. For example, what if I said I want to display the employees that has salary less than 2,000, for example. Okay, I want to display the employee's name and their salary for employees that has salary less than 2,000. Okay, take a look. What is my condition? Salary less than 2,000. So what do we need to display? For example, like I said, I want to display only the name and also the salary. This name and salary coming from which table? Coming from employees. Now we have condition. If we stop up until here, then we get all of the rows. But right now we have a condition. So when you have a condition, we put inside where clause. So what is my condition? Salary, the column name is salary less than 2,000. See, salary less than 2,000. So only employees that have salary less than 2,000. How about Ahmad Ali? Will Ahmad Ali be listed? No. Oops, sorry. No, because why? The salary is 9,000. 3,000. No. 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 Only Liana Aina and 1,800 will be listed because we want to display the name and also the salary. So what is the name? The name is Liana Aina. What is the salary? The salary is 1,800. Only this person will be listed in table result based on this condition. Okay, so like I said, you also can use equal. Okay, anything. Okay, if we change to equal over here, okay, if we change to equals over here, okay, we will not get any result. The SQL is correct. It can be executed. There's no problem. However, you will not get the result. Why? Is there any employees with salary 2,000? Because when we talk about equal, it must be the exact value. Okay, the exact value 2,000. There's no employee with salary 2,000. The SQL will be executed, but we will not get any result. Okay, so please be careful when you want to use equal over here because it must be the exact value from the database that will be listed in the table result. If not, it will not display anything. Okay, so this one is a number. Okay, when we talk about number, the value over here doesn't need to, even if you want to put the single quotation mark, there's no problem. It can be executed. But for numbers, we doesn't need to put the single quotation mark. Okay, single quotation mark is not needed. However, it is needed if you want to use with characters or if you want to use with dates. For example, I want to do select employee ID and name from employees because employee ID and name is coming from employees table. Okay, because if you take a look over here, like I said, okay, employee ID and name is coming from employees table. Okay, where name equals to Ahmad Ali. So what is the data type of Ahmad Ali? Okay, the name. What is data type for name? Name here is a character. So when you have a character, it must be enclosed within single quotation mark. Okay, single quotation mark. Same goes with what if I want to select name and also hire date. These two columns are coming from which table? From employees. Okay, where hire date equals to 13 January 2009. Okay, remember, if it's a date, okay, if the column here is a date column or character, it must be enclosed within single quotation mark. Okay, remember what is the default date format in Oracle? DD, MON, YY, YY, day, month, and year. Year in numbers, YY, YY. So if you have a character and you have a date, it must be enclosed within single quotation mark. Remember, it has to be single. Okay, if you put double, then of course you will not get the result. Okay, syntax error lah. Okay, so that's why you need to remember that characters and name must be enclosed within single quotation mark. For example, what if I said I want to find employees that has A in its name? Okay, employee, the name must have A. Okay, so how to find this one by using SQL? If you do select employee ID name from employees, okay, where name equals to A, then you will not get any result because why? As I said, A will take the exact same thing. Do you have any name inside our table here? A name that equals to A? No. Okay, because the name is Ahmad Ali, Siti Farah, Fatin Aminah, and so forth. So if you want to take a look at portion of a string, okay, portion of a string or a character, then we need to use like operator. Okay, to use like operator. Like operator must be used with percentage or underscore. This is what we call as wildcard characters. This one denotes zero or many characters. This one means underscore means one character. So for example, you want to find employees that has A in its name. So the position doesn't matter at the beginning or at the end of the character as long as it has A. So what we can do is select employee ID, name from employees, where name like. So this is our operator like. So characters will be enclosed with single quotation mark, anything, a, anything. Then we can end. What does it mean here? In front of the character of name, it can be many characters. After a, it can be many, zero or many characters. So it doesn't matter in front of this a other if you have any other characters, or in front at the end of the a you have any other characters. So now we have to find, as long as the name has a in its name, then it will be listed in table result. So let's take a look at our table over here. Okay, let's take a look at our, do you have a? See, you have a over here. In front of this a can be any characters, after of this a can be any characters. As long as you have this A, then it will be listed. This one has A, it can be listed. Has A, listed. This one has A, it will be listed. This one has A. Okay, so every single data will be listed lah. Because why? Because why? All of the name contains A. Okay, so all of the names of employees in our table contains A. Okay, same goes if you want to take a look at dates over here. Okay, if you want to use date. Okay, date column. For example, you want to find employees that were hired. Okay, employees that were hired in 2013, for example. Okay, to find employees who were hired in 2013. Only one employee. So how to do it? We will do something like this. Select name, for example, select name and also the hire date. Okay, from which table? Coming from employees table. Okay, so what is our condition? Where hire date, where hire date, like. So what is the default date format? DD, MON, YY, YY. So where is 2003 part? At YYYY. So 2013 over here. So means in front of, in front of this date, it can be any day, any month, as long as the year is 2013. So what we can do, anything, it will end with 2013. So take a look at our hire date. Which one that ends with 2013? Only this part. This one not end. So only this row will be listed in our table result. Okay, the name and also the hire date. So this is how we use our where condition. Okay, our where clause. Okay, we put a condition. Condition must have column name or expression, comparison operator, and value. Okay, so you can use, these are all the comparison operators that we can use. Sometimes we can also use function in our SQL. So the function that I will cover here is only a few of many functions in our SQL. For example, we have substring. Okay, substring is we want to take only portion of a string. So in substring, we have three different arguments: column name, start index, and also how many characters that we want to take. For length, we take a look at what is the length of the column. Okay, then if you have date minus a date, we will get number of days, and we also have a function of months between. Okay, months between two dates, we have two arguments, date number 1 and date number 2. column date number 1, column date number 2. So let's take a look at the implementation. For example, what if I said find the substring of each employee's name? For example, let's take a look over here. Select name. Okay, select name. Substring. Okay, substring. I want to take a look at substring of the column name. Okay, the column is name. Okay, I want to start with index number 1 and I want to take 4. Okay, so all of this coming from which table? From employees. Let's say if I have this SQL, what would be the result? Okay, let's take a look. Number 1, okay, the column is name, and the second one is substring. Okay, the column substring over here. Okay, so substring name 1 4. Okay, let's take a look. The first one we have Ahmad Ali. Ahmad Ali. So what is the substring of 1 4 for Ahmad Ali? Let's take a look. Let's say this is Ahmad Ali. Okay, so we want to start at index number 1. Take a look, substring 1 4. Start number 1. Index in SQL start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Space is included. 6, 7, 8, 9 because space is also a character. So actually, totally we have 9. Okay, the length. Okay, this is length. This is what we call as length. Okay, the length for Ahmad Ali is 9. Okay, however, when substring only 1 to 4, we start at 1. How many do we want to take? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the result is Ahmad over here. Okay, same goes with Siti Farah. Okay, Siti space Farah. What is the length? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. We want to take 4. We start at index number 1. How many do you want to take? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the result here will be city. So this is for substring. So what if I said I want to change the query? Okay, we also can use the substring inside our where clause. For example, where substring of name, okay, 1 to 4 is equal to city. So what does it mean here? What do you want to take? Okay, the substring of the name from index number 1, we have to take 4 must be equal to city. So who will be in table result? Only the second employees. Okay, so what will be the result? Only the second employee is city. Because the rest doesn't have city as index number 1 up until we want to take how many characters? 4. Okay, so we also can use length. Okay, so what does it by length? Select name. I want to see the length of name. From which table? From employees table. Okay, so what will be table result? The name and also the length of name. So this is our column that we want to display. So the first name is Ahmad Ali. So how much is Ahmad Ali? As I said, the space is included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So length for Ahmad Ali is 9. How about Siti Farah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the length for Sarah is 10. Sorry. Okay, 10. Okay, for Siti Farah. So how about for Liana Aina? Take a look. Liana space Aina. Oops, sorry. Okay, Aina. So take a look how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 space is included. 8, 9, 10, 11. So the result is 11. So that's the length. Okay, the length for the characters. Okay, so we also can use inside our where clause. Okay, where length of name must be greater than 12, for example. Okay, take a look. Ahmad Ali will not be listed because 9. Siti Farah, 10, not greater than 12. Okay, Aina is 11, not greater than 12, so it will not be table result. Take a look for Fatin Aminah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It is not also greater than 12, so it will not be listed in table result. Okay, but if you want to greater than or equal, then Fatin Aminah will be inside the table result. Okay, so if we put this one, okay, so let's make it correct. Greater than or equals to 12. Okay, so then only Fatin Aminah will be listed in table result because the length of the name is greater than or equals to 12. Okay, so besides that, we can also use date minus a date. If you do date minus another date, we will get number of days. Okay, date minus a date, we get number of days. For example, I want to select name and also hire date. Okay, and then if you do sys date, what is sys date? Sys date will take your system's date, which means normally it will be today's date. Okay, sys date minus hire date from employees. So if sorry, we need to put the full table name. So if we have this kind of SQL, take a look. Sys date is a date. So this is your computer's date, your system date, minus another date. So what we will get? Number of days. So now you will know how many days that this person, that the employee has been working inside the company. Okay, date minus a date, we get number of date. We can also put this one. Okay, we can also put this one in a where clause, where sys date minus hire date will be greater than 1000. So what does it mean here? We want to find employees that has been working, okay, that have been working for more than 1000 days in a company. Why days? Because date minus a date here will get number of days. Okay, so we now have to find employees that have been working for more than 1000 days. So what if I said I want to find employees that has been working more than 5 years? More than 5 years. So now we know, okay, we know that date minus another date. Take a look, date, this is a date, this is date minus another date, we will get number of days. So how to convert number of days to become a year? We know that 1 year will have 365 days. So what we can do with this SQL would be sysdate, okay, sysdate minus hire date divide by 365 must be greater than 5. So we know that date minus a date divided by 365, we get number of years. Okay, the number of years of this person has been working must be greater than 5. So now we will get employees that were hired from that have been working for more than 5 years. But what if I said I want to know employees that has been working for more than 100 months? Okay, the employee that have been working for more than 100 months. So for months, we can use months between. We have the function of what we call as months between. For example, I will select name and their hire date. Okay, all of this coming from which table? The columns coming from employees table, where months between, months underscore between. So this is the function. This function has two arguments. The first one is the current date. The second one will be the older date, okay, which is the higher date, greater than 100. What does it mean here? Months between will give you number of months between two dates. Okay, so now I want to find months between sys date and hire date. Months between sys date and hire date. So this one we will get number of months. The number of months must be greater than 100. Okay, so now we, from this SQL alone, okay, from this SQL, we will get all of the employees that have been working for more than 100 months. So this is how we can apply the function in our where clause. We can also apply the function in our select clause. In select clause, of course, it will be displayed in our table result. But for where clause, it is as a condition for your table result. So now let's take a look at group function. Group function means we want to group the data into certain criteria. Okay, for example, what if I said select minimum salary, maximum salary, we do sum salary first, sum salary, and also average salary. Okay, so salary column is coming from which table? Employees. So we can stop. Okay, so if you take a look, minimum salary, what does it mean by minimum salary? Group function will give you only one row of result. Okay, one row of result. From all of this salary, which one is the minimum one? 1,800. So in our table result, how many columns do we have? 4. The first one is minimum salary, maximum salary, sum salary, and also average salary. So minimum salary, all of this, which one is the minimum? 1,800. It will give you the value. The value for minimum salary is 1,800. What is the maximum salary? 9,000. How about sum salary? So how about sum? We will do the sum from 9,000 plus 3,500 plus 4,200 plus 2,300 plus 1,800. What is the result? So that's what we call as sum. Then we have the value over here. How about average? We take a look, 9,000 plus 3,500 plus 4,200 plus 2,300 plus 1,800. We divide with how many participants? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the sum salary actually divide by number of participants. Okay, number of participants. So this is what we get the average. Then we get the value. Okay, so the value will be listed here. Take a look, how many rows of result? Only one row. Okay, so this is our group function. We group the data according to certain criteria. For example, we want minimum salary, maximum salary, and so forth. Okay, how about count? Count will take number of rows. Count will take number of rows. For example, what makes employee unique? Employee ID. So if we count employee ID, okay, employee ID coming from which table? From employees, what we will get? Okay, count employee IDs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the result will be 5. So we know there are 5 employees inside the company. Okay, in the table. Okay, there are 5 rows of data in the table. So this is what we will get. Remember, the group function ignore nulls. Okay, it will ignore null. For example, what if I select count department ID from employees? What would be the result? Take a look. The count employee IDs, it will ignore null. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now what we will get, the result will be 4. There are 4 columns on 4 rows only. Why? Because it will ignore the null values. Okay, it will ignore the null values. But what if I do something like this? Select count distinct department ID from employees. What is the result that I will get? 2. Why? Take a look over here. Okay, take a look over here. As I said, null is not counted, 10, 1, distinct. Distinct means unique. This is not unique. 20, another 1. Another 20 is not unique. So 1 plus 1, how many will you get? 2. Okay, so how many distinct department inside employees table? Only 2. So that's why the result over here will be 2, because distinct will eliminates duplication. Okay, distinct eliminates duplication. Okay, distinct eliminate duplication. That's why the result will be 2. Even if we count the same thing, department ID, but this one we have distinct. So we want only the unique values. Okay, the unique value is only 2 unique value inside here, 10 and 20. So now, what if we have this question? Find number of employees in each department. So when you take a look at the question, if you have keyword of each, you know that you need to use group by clause. Okay, to use group by clause. So we want the result something like this. Department 10, there are 2 employees. Take a look, 2 employees in department 10, 2 employees in department 20, and there is 1 employee who has null, okay, inside the as the department. Okay, so how to do the SQL for this one? It will be select. What do we select first? Department department ID, then number of employees. Okay, so now we want to count. Okay, what makes employee unique? Employee ID. So we want to count how many employees inside this department ID. Okay, so select department ID, count employee ID from employees. Okay, so if you take a look over here, we select, this is a group function, this is non-group function. Okay, so if you select group function with non-group function, you need to have group by clause. Okay, group by clause. Group by what? Which one is a non-group function? Department ID. So we group by department ID over here. Okay, then department ID over here. Okay, so if we have a where clause would be in between this one. Okay, for example, to select department ID, count employee ID from employees, all of this coming from employees, where, for example, we have a condition, debt ID in 10 and 20. What does it mean? In will take exactly the same. Okay, department ID must be 10 or 20. Okay, group by. Okay, which one is the non-group function? Department ID. So take a look. We have select from where, then you put your group function. Okay, group by clause. If you don't have a where clause, then if you don't have any condition, then we straight away go to group by clause, just like this one. Okay, so this is if you have a group by clause with where clause. So where clause must be before the group by clause. Okay, so if you do this one, how many employees inside each department? So we know how many departments do we have? Okay, we have 10. Okay, how many department 10? Take a look. 1, 2. So we count the employee ID. 1, 2. So we have 2. Department 20, the unique one. Okay, so because we group by department ID, so we group department 10, we group department 20. How many people in department 20? Count the employee ID. 1, 2. So the result is 2 over here. Okay, then then we have null. Then only 1 employee has null department ID. That will be listed over here. So this is the result that we will get from this SQL. But for this SQL, the department ID must be in 20 and 10 and 20. We have a condition, 10 and 20 only. So what will be the result? We have department 10, 2 people, department 20, 2 people. Now will not be listed over here because the condition, department ID must be in 10 or 20. 10 or 20. So this is the result for the second SQL. So this is for group function. Remember, in group function, we can select group function in our select clause. Okay, however, if you select group function with non-group function in a select clause, then we need to have group by clause. Okay, so actually, as I said, how to know that we have a group by clause? Take a look at the question. If you have each, okay, or per, okay, then we will know. We will know that we need to have a group by clause. But the how to make it easier for you to remember, if you select a group function with non-group function in a select clause, you need to have a group by clause. Group by clause comes after where clause. So the basic is select from where, then we have group by, then we can have having clause. Okay, what is having clause? Okay, what is having clause? Having clause is for a condition. Okay, this one is for the condition that involves group function. Okay, the condition itself must have a group function. For example, we have having maximum salary greater than 2000, for example. So take a look, the condition itself involves group function. If the condition involves group function, we need to use having clause. Where to put having clause? After group by clause. Okay, so that's the keyword. So we have select something from something where condition group by. For example, you have a group by what? Having is a, if your condition involving group function. Then we can stop. So this is the structure. Select from where group by having. For example, okay, for example, I want to find each department that has maximum salary greater than 2000, for example. So how to do this one? We will select department ID and also the maximum salary, okay, from employees. Okay, so this one we don't, the condition is about group function, so we don't have where condition because the condition itself involving group function. We don't have having coming from after group by. Group by what? Which one is non-group function? Group by department ID. Having maximum salary greater than 2000. So take a look, our condition involve group function. If your condition involving group function, we need to use having clause. Okay, but the mistakes that students will always did is, okay, they will select department ID, maximum salary from employees. They will do something like this, where maximum salary greater than 2000, group by department ID. This is wrong. It cannot be executed because why? In where clause, okay, in where clause over here, group function cannot be used. So if you have a condition involving group function, it has to be having clause, having maximum salary greater than 2000. So no where clause over here. Okay, it's okay not to have where clause in the SQL as long as it is correct of what you are trying to find. Can take a look over here. This SQL is correct even though there is no where clause. Because why? We don't have a normal condition. We have a condition that involves group function. So we need to use having clause. So let's take a look at this situation. What if you want to find employee's name and their department? Okay, employee's name and the department. So this is the result that we will get. Ahmad Ali, department Na. Siti Farah, the department is 10. Okay, Fatin Amina, department ID is 10. Ali Akmal 20 and Lena Aina 20. So how to do the SQL? It will be, we will select name and also debt ID from employees. So if we have this SQL, this is the result that we will get. But will you understand department ID or department name? We will understand department name more because name will give you more significant meaning. For example, people will ask you, which department are you working in? Okay, do you want to answer? I'm working in department 10. People will not understand what department 10 is all about. Okay, so but what if I ask you, which department do you working in? Are you working in? So then I will say, I'm working in human resource department. So people will understand the name more compared to the department ID. So what if I want to take data that are coming from two table. Take a look over here. Name is here. Department name is here. Okay, the employee's name is inside employees, department name is inside department. Now we want to select data that is coming from two different tables. Then what do we need to use? We need to use join operation. Okay, so if you take a look, you want to take data that are coming from two different tables, then tables that we will know that we need to use join. So now let's take a look at what do we want to select first. Okay, we want to select the name and also department name. So this is department name. Okay, the name and department name. Name coming from which table? Name coming from employees table. Then how about department name? Coming from departments table. So now the basic for join operation, if we execute this one, then we will get error message. Why? Because department name is not coming from employees. So the basic join statement will be, we will select column 1 or column 2, or if we have more than 2 columns, then you can choose column 3 from table name, join another table on what? Okay, they say this is table name 1, table name 2. Then we will say that table name 1 dot common attribute equals to table name 2 dot common attribute. Okay, so this is the basic syntax. Okay, so now let's move on with our tables. Okay, with our example, we want to select, okay, name coming from employees, department name coming from departments, that we to join departments. So if you take a look over here, table departments and employees are connected to each other or not? Do they have common attribute? Yes, they have a common attribute. So this is the common attribute between the tables. Common attribute. So what is the common attribute? Dept ID will be equals to department ID. Why? Take a look. 10 equals to 10. The name is finance. Okay, so that's how we do it. So on what? Employees, they say I give the table LIS E. Department, I give a table LIS D. So what does it mean? Inside employees, we take a look at debt ID equals to inside department. Which column do we take a look at? Department ID. Okay, so this is what we call as join operation. So you need to find what is the common attribute between the tables that you want to join over here. Okay, so now if you take a look, what will be the result of this one? So what do we have? We have name and department name. So these are the two columns that we want to display. Name and department name. Okay, name and department name. So now let's take a look at the tables over here. So which data will be in table result? This is we are going to find out now. Okay, so let's take a look. Null. The first one is null. Ahmad Ali. Okay, the name is Ahmad Ali. The department ID is null. Can you find null over here? No. So Ahmad Ali cannot be in table result. So this is join operation. You will only take data that is common between two tables. Now we want to find department ID null. Can you find null inside department ID inside departments? No. So that's why Ahmad Ali can never be in table result. Then we take a look at the second one. Siti Farah. The name is Siti Farah. What is the department? 10. So can you find 10 over here? Yes. So what is the name? Finance. How about Fatin Aminah? 10. What is 10 over here? Finance. How about Alif Akmal over here? 20. What is 20? Human resource. So if you have a match value between these two tables, between this condition, debt ID equals to department ID, take a look. Debt ID equals to department ID, then you can be in table result. So who will be in table result? Only Siti Farah. Okay, Siti Farah, Fatin Aminah, Alif Akmal, and also Liana Aina. So what is the department name for Siti Farah? Finance just now that we have figured out. Fatin Aminah, finance. Alif Akmal, human resource. How about Liana Aina? Human resource. Okay, only these four employees will be in table result because why? They have a match value between the two tables over here. Okay, take a look. Ahmad Ali, why Ahmad Ali cannot be in table result? The department ID is null. Can you find null over here? No. So that's why Ahmad Ali cannot be in table result. So this is what we call as joint operation. Okay, joint operation. So the common attribute must have the same value for it to be in the table result. Okay, so what if I said display department name and their city? Okay, take a look. Where is department name? Okay, here, finance, human resource, sales. So we display finance, human resource, and sales. Okay, so what is location for finance? 1. So what is 1 over here? Kuala Lumpur. What is 1 over here? Kuala Lumpur. For sales, 2. What is 2 over here? Jasin. Jasin. So from this one, what is the SQL? So take a look. What do we select? We select department name and also city. All of this coming from which table? Department name coming from departments. So I give table alias D. Join with what do you want to? Which table do you want to join? Locations. Locations. I put as L. On what? Location ID equals to location ID. So means departments dot location ID D dot location ID equals to location L dot location ID. L dot location ID. Okay, so what if I said I want to have a condition where department name where department name like anything N. Okay, so this is if you have a condition. So if you have a condition, then you put after you finish the join, all the joins. Okay, so department name equals to N. So if you take a look, department name got N. Got N. So this one will not be in table result, only these two. Because this department name doesn't have N. So sales will not be in table result. Only these two will be in the table result. So this is if we have a condition. If you have another condition, then you put after where here. And you put another condition. Okay, if you finish, you can close the end the statement with semicolon. Okay, so what if I said now? Okay, so let's clear the table. Okay, so now what if I said I want to display employee's name and the city that they works in. Okay, so now I want to find employee's name. Oops. Okay, employee's name and the city that they works in. So what can we do? So now we want to list employee's name and the city over here. Take a look. Okay, employee's name and city. Okay, so if you take a look, if you do something like this, select the name and want to select the city. So by right, you will do something like this: from name coming from employees, join with what is the table of city, location. Okay, I give E, I give L. On what? Take a look. Is there any common attribute between employees and location? No. There's no direct connection. Take a look. Employees connect to department, department connects to location. Okay, so now we don't have employees to location directly, because if we draft the ERD, we will see employees is connected to department, department is connected to location based on this one. So we have no direct relationship between employees and location. So this one would be wrong. Okay, this one would be wrong. It has to be in order. Okay, so employees need to connect with what? Employees needs to connect with departments. D. Okay, employees join with departments on what? E dot depth ID equals to D dot department ID. Okay, so this is our first join. Then how to get to the city? Okay, departments need to join with location. Take a look. Department, we join with locations. L. On what? What is the relationship between department and location? Location ID. So D dot location ID, take a look, D dot location ID equals to L dot location ID. Then we can stop. So now we have connected three tables to get to the answer that we want, which is name and city. Employees combined with data from location. But since employees and location has no direct relationship, then we need to find the relationship, the connection. So what is the connection? Employees join with department, department join with location for you to get the answer. Okay, for you to get to the answer. So this is how we do it. It has to be join on, join on. So student will always do join, 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 on. This is wrong. It has to be join on, join on, join on, and so forth. Okay, so this is how we join more than two tables. So if you have a condition, then we put where over here. Where, what is your condition? If you have another condition, and, or we can use or, what condition? Then you can stop. Okay, so this is how we combine more than two tables. Join on, join on. Take a look. Join on, join on. Okay, and sometimes let's say, what if I said just now? Remember what we did? Department ID and number of employees. Okay, department 10, 2 employees. Department 20, we have 2 employees. So people will not understand what is department ID. As I said, people will understand more if we give the department name and number of employees. Okay, so just now what we did, we select department ID, dep ID, and also their count employee ID from, all of this coming from which table? Employees, we group by department ID. Okay, so when we give this SQL, we will get this result. Okay, department ID, department 10, 2 employees, department 20, 2 employees. But as I said, people will not understand what department ID is all about. Okay, so what is department 10? Finance. So we know inside finance, there are 2 employees. Then inside department 20, so what is 20? Inside human resource, 2 employees. Okay, so now, how can we do SQL based on this one? What do we select? We select department name, and what do we count? We count employee ID. Take a look. Employee ID coming from employees, department name coming from department. So how many tables do you want to join? 2 different tables. So everything coming from departments, D, join with employees, E, on what? What is the common attribute between department and employees? Debt ID equals to department ID. So on D dot department ID equals to E dot debt ID. So take a look now. Instead of giving department 10 to department 20 to employees, people will understand more if you give finance to employees, human resource to employees. So how to do it? This one. So now we have group function together with joint operation. It will be much more meaningful of the table result to the user. So people will understand more this result compared to this result. Okay, the second result compared to the first result. So of course, I would prefer the second result because it will be much more meaningful to the user to see your table result. Okay, so this is the difference between SQL. So this is if you take from one table only. This is if you join 2 different tables to get much more meaningful result. So just now, if you have this SQL, find employee's name and their department's name. This is what you will do. Select name, department name from employees, join departments on e.debid equals to, e.debid equals to department d.department ID. So what we will get, Siti Farah, Department Finance, Fatin Aminah, Department Finance, Alif Akmal in Department Human Resource, and also the last one, Liana Aina in Human Resource. How do we know? For example, as I said, Liana Aina, what is department ID? 20. So what is 20 over here? Human Resource. So this is the result that we will get. Okay. However, what if I said I want to display all employees, regardless they have departments or not. Okay, so I want to display all employees regardless they have a department or not. So what we will get over here, the name and also their department name. So we want to display all employees. So we will include Ahmad Ali, Siti Farah, Fatin Aminah, Alif Akmal, and also Liana Aina. So Ahmad Ali, the department is null. Siti Farah is finance. Fatin Aminah is finance. Alif Akmal is human resource. And also Liana Aina is human resource. So take a look. To get this data, we need to join to table. But in a normal join, null cannot be in table result. Okay, null cannot be in table result. However, what if we want to do join operation? Okay, this one is join because why? Two different tables. One table employee, another one is from table department. Okay, we want to join to do join, but we need to include null. If you want to use join and include null, then you need to use outer join. Okay, so we have three types of outer join: left outer join, right outer join, and also full outer join. Okay, so this outer join will give you different kind of result. Each type of outer join will give you different kind of result. So now, if you take a look here, we list all employees regardless they have department or not. So now, the SQL would be select name, department name from, sorry, from employees E left outer join. So I use left now. Okay, I use left outer join departments. D, okay, D on what? On E dot depth ID equals to D dot department ID. It is just the same as the original one, but in front of the join, in front of this join, we add left outer. So what does it mean by left outer? Take a look. Left outer join. Based on this one, which one is on the left? Employees. So what does it mean? We want to display all employees regardless they have a department or not. So this is the result that we will get. Okay, but what if I change this one to become right outer join? Okay, I display right outer join. So now who's on the right? Departments. So what does it mean here? We will list all departments regardless they have employees in it or not. Take a look, this is department name. This is the employee's name. So what kind of department name that we have? We have finance. Finance, we have 2 people. Human resource, we have 2 people. Okay, so we do 2. Then the department that we have, sales. Sales over here. So who is inside finance? We have Siti, Farah, we have Fatin, Amina. Who is inside human resource? We have Alif Akmal, and we have Liana, Aina. Who is inside sales? Take a look, there's no employees, it's inside sales. So we can have null over here. So take a look, in right outer join, the left table can contain null. In left outer join, the right table can have null. So another one, what if I change this one into full outer join? Based on this result, we will add another data. So what is another data that we have? Ahmad Ali. Ahmad Ali, null. So what does it by full outer join? Both side of the table can have null value. It is a combination of left outer join plus right outer join. So I hope you can differentiate between the left outer join, right outer join, and full outer join. Remember, if you do normal join operation, take a look, you do normal join operation, null cannot be in table result. But what if you want to use join operation and you want to include null? Then you need to use outer join. What kind of outer join? Left outer join, right outer join, or full outer join, depending on what you are trying to find. In left outer join, what does it mean? The right table can have null values. How about right outer join? The left table can have null values. What is full outer join? Combination of left outer join and right outer join. So, what if we have this situation? Find employees that have salary less than Fatin Amina's salary. So, if you have this kind of situation, we can use subquery. Okay, so because of first we need to determine what is Fatin Amina's salary first before we can know. So this is our first. Before we can know which employee who have salary less than Fatin Amina's salary. So what we can do is find Fatin Amina's salary first. So what we do, select salary from employees where name equals to Fatin Amina. So after we find, so what is the value over here? The value is 4,200. And now we find employees who have salary less than 4,200. So what we can do, select name and salary. This one coming from which table? From employees where salary must be less than all of this. Then we put semicolon. So now you find employees who has salary less than Fatin Amina's salary. So first, as I said, we find what is Fatin Amina's salary first before we can know which employee that have salary less than Fatin Amina's salary. So take a look, you compare one column with one column. What is data type? Number. Salary is number. We compare with a number. So remember over here, when you want to do subquery, compare one column with one column. Okay, if you select all over here, for example, select all from employees when name equals to Fatin Aminas. Take a look. This is, oops, sorry. Okay, we have one column over here, one column, but we compare with all of the column. How many column? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Compare with 6 columns. So it will be wrong. It cannot be executed. So if you compare one column over here, inside the subquery also, it has to be the same column. Okay, the one column also. It will be wrong also if you compare over here is, for example, you select one column also. Select name from employees where name equals to Fatin Aminah. For example, take a look, you compare salary with name. One column with column. One column, it is correct. However, what is data type over here? Salary is a number, name is a character. So you cannot compare number with a character. It will be wrong. So of course, you will also get an error message if you try to execute this query. So please be careful when you want to compare one column. Your subquery also need to select only one column. If it's a number, it should be a number. For example, what if I select over here employee ID? This one can be executed. One column, number, number. But is it correct for you to compare salary with employee ID? Of course not. It will not be significant. Even though it can be executed, however, it is not significant. Okay, so please be careful when you want to select a subquery over here. Okay, so compare the correct thing. Salary with salary. Name with name. Okay, character with character. Okay, but the problem is this one we will get only one row of result. It's okay. But what if your subquery over here return multiple row of result? If it's multiple row of result, then of course you cannot use equal, you cannot use less than, you cannot use greater than, because this one compare with only one value. So if you have multiple rows of subquery here, you can use in operator, it will be better. Okay, it will be better if you put the comparison over here in if you have multiple subquery. So what if I said find which employee that has the minimum salary. what is the name of employees that has the minimum salary. Okay, so now of course, first thing first, what do you need to select? We select minimum salary from employees. Okay, then now we find which employee, select name and their salary from employees where salary equals to this minimum salary. Okay, take a look. If we execute this SQL, okay, remember your subquery must have a parenthesis to indicate that this is what your SQL server will execute first, the subquery, something inside the parenthesis. Select minimum salary. What is the minimum salary? 1,800. So your subquery over here will return 1,800. So how the your Oracle server will read it will be select name salary from employees where salary equals to what is the result? 1,800. Then we will get the name, okay, the name, then the salary of the employee that has the minimum salary. Okay, now we know that this person has the minimum salary inside your company. So this is how we use our subquery. Okay, the basic one. Okay. One thing that I want to highlight here is we can also find the minimum date, maximum date, minimum characters, and maximum characters. Okay, for example, what if I said minimum hire date? So what is it by minimum hire date? Means the oldest date. Maximum hire date, the latest date. How about minimum character? A. Maximum character? Z. For example, minimum name. It will follow alphabetical order. Okay, of course, Ahmad Ali, then Alif Akmal, then Fatin Aminah, Liana Aina, and Siti Sarah will be the last. Okay, it will follow the alphabetical order. Minimum is A, maximum is Z. Okay, so this is you also need to consider minimum and maximum can also be used with characters and dates other than numbers. Numbers is easy to understand. Minimum number, maximum number. But how about minimum date? The oldest date. Maximum date, latest date. Minimum character and maximum character will follow alphabetical order. Minimum character is A, maximum character is Z. So that's all for now. Thank you.